My name's Dennis Koenig. I was in the United States Army from 1982 to 1994, right after the Gulf War. My job specialty was chemical warfare, and after Gulf War One, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, the Army was greatly reduced, so they didn't need chemical warfare folks around anymore. I was a captain and missed my promotion and got out. And I started looking for a job, and at the time, jobs weren't as plentiful as they were. So I worked for Hamilton County at a homeless shelter for 15 years. And in doing so, I met an individual from Goodwill who was enrolling veterans in this back to work, or help to get back to work program. And he did an intake on a Saturday night at 5 o'clock during our job time, outdoors under the sun, or under the trees. And I thought, man, I can work for a company like that. I can work for an outfit like that and work with people like that. His name was John Briggs. And if you've been at Goodwill for more than a year or so, you know John is a very influential in the whole homeless veterans programs as well. But having met him, I've made a note that after working for the county, I could work for Goodwill, and that's been probably 15, almost 20 years ago. And I've been with Goodwill now for better than 12 years. It's in the homeless veterans program, HVRP, case manager, and our job, the job of the program, my job, is to assist veterans get back to work or stay at work.
My name is John Farley. I'm probably an animal of Goodwill, simply because I was actually homeless and lived here for 2 years. Got out of the Marine Corps in 1985, worked for the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department for several years, worked for the Wyoming Police Department for several years. Basically lost my job when it was basically taken away. I was a 911 dispatcher, and Wyoming decided to get out of that business, and that was 2007, just happened to coincide with the economic downturn. Couldn't find a job, and I was amazed at how many things could fall off of the plate, one after another, until all of a sudden there's nothing left on the plate. And I ended up here in 2011 and have never left. Basically came in to the dorm, stayed here for 2 years, was already working on my associate's degree at the time. So I finished it up and then found housing that was sponsored by Goodwill back out in the civilian world, and lived out there for a couple of years where I finished my bachelor's degree, but still stayed here and worked at Goodwill. So once I finished my bachelor's degree, this job, the HVRP job, came open, and I applied, and they were more than happy to let me stay on. And I love Goodwill. I love the veterans. I'll never tell them that. The job, in and of itself, it's a labor of love, because a lot of the guys, have addictive issues. They have issues that that certainly supersede just being homeless, and that it makes them recidivate at times. You'll see a guy maybe 2-3 times, but one thing you look forward to is when the light comes on, and all of a sudden they walk away. And I always tell my clients when we have our interviews that one day I want to walk on Fountain Square, see you with your girl on your arm, and we won't say anything. I'll go like this, he'll go like that, and that we'll know. But in the end, those are the events that you really do take pride in seeing. When a guy, because sometimes they'll write you back, they'll call you back, and they'll say, hey, I want to thank you. Because in the end, you stuck by me no matter what. It's kind of a parental type of love. You really take them to heart.
My name is Bill Wasson. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I served on active duty from 96 to 99. I was on a tank at Fort Lewis. I got out and I went to EKU. When I was at EKU, I think I was in the National Guard for a total of 2 years. And then I got out and never went back. But when I moved up here, I was actually homeless too. When I came up here with nothing, and Goodwill helped me out. I was actually in the HVRP program the first time I'd heard of Goodwill, in the Veterans Program, which was 10 years, and they sort of furnished my apartment and got me a bunch of stuff and going. And that helped me out. And I didn't give them much thought. For like the next 10 years, I was working as a mental health case manager until we got bought out by a different company there, and I decided to make a job change, and I saw that Goodwill was hiring. And I'd actually already accepted another job at that point, and I figured I'd come and interview just to see, because I remembered what they had did for me back then. And when I had met Susie that day, I decided that this is where I wanted to work at. And that was a little over 2 years ago in October. And since then, I've been working here. And I love working with the veterans. I love working with the veterans and giving back like they helped me. So it really helps to give back. I had no idea until they came and found me at the Dom in Fort Thomas. I had no idea that they had all this help for veterans. I didn't know they had a dorm here until I started working here. So I don't think many veterans in the community really know what's available, because they don't go out looking for help even when they need it. So if we can spread the word to the VA and other places, just what is available for them to help them get started and keep going, I think that would go a long way, because there's a lot more than most people know for resources for veterans here.
Sacrifice of so many millions of people. I mean, from the guys from, World War I, World War II. I went to one of the veterans dinners about a couple of years ago, since the pandemic, is probably the one before it.
You become familiar with the history and what has people that have walked before you. You know, they say we do our jobs, or we can accomplish a lot of things on the backs or the of giants, of the people that have come before us. And it's very humbling to be affiliated with folks like that.
Every Veterans Day, I just reflect on all the men I met when I was in the service, the good people and the times that we had. And I think it's important for the rest of society to think about what everybody sacrificed to on Veterans Day, because they don't think about veterans a lot throughout the year, but at least there is a day for them to give it some thought.
I think a lot of the problems that we have as a society right now are because a lot of people haven't ever really exposed themselves to service, which is self-sacrifice, which is loving your country more than loving yourself. You got a lot of folks out here these days that love themselves more than they love their country. It's your prerogative, it just doesn't help the country much.
There's a whole lot that goes with that as well. Getting along, doing your
Caring about your fellow man.
Learning to do things that you're not used to doing otherwise, like learning a new trade or job. I don't want to make the military sound like a trades program or job training, but you learn how to do things that otherwise you would not be doing as a civilian. And
Teamwork, you have to work.
teamwork, leadership, accountability, personal hygiene, how to take care of your area, just a whole litany of things that are.
Discipline, a lot.
Of
Discipline, you have to be
virtues.
disciplined.
A litany of virtues.
I think it would be good for every man that can to serve at least a year or two, teach a lot.